Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time I'm kind of gonna go between the Crow series and this show that I'm watching. It won't interrupt it, but I started watching and I just finished season one of iZombie. This is a horror comedy police procedural show. Season one came out in 2015, and it stars Rose McIver, Malcolm Goodwin, Rahul Kohli, Robert Buckley, David Anders, and Ali Michalka. I might have gotten that wrong. But in the show, a medical resident finds that being a zombie has its perks, which she uses to assist the police. So, what did I think of iZombie Season 1? Well, I'm going to try my best at this because I don't do a lot of seasons of shows. I mean, so far, the only shows I've really done have been anime, which usually have self-contained seasons, which this one does to an extent, but it also I've seen like the first tiny bit of season two, or the a tiny bit of the first episode of season two, and yeah, it's not really self-contained, but I'll go off of what I saw in the first season, which I like. I like the first season of the show. It's very well paced, very well made, doesn't look cheap. Um and surprisingly violent in some places, given that it was a CW show. Um, and other than a few issues with writing, I quite enjoyed it. But let me get to the cast. Rose McIver plays Olivia Moore. She's a medical resident. She ends up being on this boat party, and she ends up being turned into a zombie by somebody on the boat. Uh, I oh yeah, and then she starts working for the not coroner, but she's what is it? Yeah, coroner's office. She basically works in the coroner's office because that is part of partly her profession, and she can get brains there from the people who are already dead. Um, Rose McIver, I have not seen in anything else really, but I think she really gets this character down right. She doesn't come off as annoying. I'm glad you don't really have exactly the same kind of writing that you do in other CW shows, especially the DC CW shows like Batwoman or Legends of Tomorrow, I think, had some really stupid writing. But yeah, the writing for her was pretty good for the most part. At the beginning of the season, I detected a hint of like feminist like kind of undertones, but nothing too bad. And again, I believe her as this character, and she's a pretty good actress, I would say. Malcolm Goodwin plays Clive Babineau. He's a detective that works with her. Um, he does a pretty good job as well. I've never really seen him in anything else either. I haven't seen most of this cast in a lot, um, if anything. Uh, he works as a cop. I buy him. Rahul Kohli plays Ravi Chakrabarti, and the person he works in the coroner's office with morgue, the morgue. That's the word I was trying to think of. He works in the morgue with Olivia. I enjoy him quite a bit. I know they were going for like the quirky, like kind of edgy character here, and it works for the most part. He didn't annoy me, so that's a good thing. Um, Robert Buckley plays Major Lillywhite, who was kind of a love interest for Olivia, but after the whole boat incident, she's like kept her distance. I enjoy him as a character in the series, even though he does some really stupid shit at times. Ali Michalka plays Peyton Charles, who is Olivia's sister, I think. She's either a sister or friend. She's not in the show a lot, but I still liked her. I like her snarky kind of character. And David Anders plays Dave Blaine DeBeers, who is kind of our main villain of the show. And I do really enjoy the way he plays this character, kind of suave, kind of dickheady, but also you buy him as a legitimate threat. And one thing I do want to say with this show is that I like that it's not. I like that it went for having kind of a through plot while having these like smaller plots for the episodes. Like you have like kind of like a third of the episode is this kind of wraparound plot of this like guy running like this business for zombies to eat brains without having to kill people, and the whole thing of like trying to get rid of this guy because, well, the boyfriend's like getting close to discovering him and all that. Um, I'm definitely gonna talk some spoilers, but so I mean, this isn't the image I showed a minute ago, but ugh, I'm probably not gonna have a ton to say about the show, but yeah, spoilers, spoilers. Um, the show, the concept is what really drew me to it. Medical examiner turns into a zombie, basically has to find a way to eat brains, and then she gets the memories of the people in the morgue whose brains she eats, and then she helps solve their murders. That's awesome. I love that concept. It works. Uh, and for the most part, we haven't really had any repeat things. Like, none of the crimes have felt too similar so far, which is a good thing for a show like this. You don't want the show to feel like it's doing the same thing over and over again, which, yeah, that is a big thing to worry about. Um, Also, the characters are pretty fun. Again, Olivia is a spunky character that's not a girl boss. I like that. And even when she is strong, there is an actual plot reason for it. They have this like kind of zombie mode, full-on zombie mode that they can go into where if they can control it, they can just do it in small bursts instead of just going insane. And if they don't get enough brains, they basically turn into mindless zombies, which is interesting. And um I like a lot of the stuff that this show does zombie wise. It's First off, I've never been a big fan of the like running zombies from like the Dawn of the Dead 2004 remake that Michael Bay did. I've never been a fan of that. They don't do that here for the most part. From what I've seen so far, they don't. Uh, uh, and they also don't do the like instant transmission like that type of shit, which I'm also not a fan of. Um, but yeah, overall, like story wise and character wise, the show is pretty solid. Some pretty memorable episodes, some pretty memorable things happen regarding characters that you don't expect to get hurt in this season, which is pretty cool. There were some moments where I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't expect that character to die," which that's really cool. I like when a show turns everything on its head at times like that. Um, but I do have to get to one thing that did kind of bother me, and it did tank a little. It's not like a thing that's like a big. It's I keep saying like it's not a thing that's a huge deal, but it does affect a decent amount of the show, which is how it portrays cops. Because one of our main characters, Clyde Babineau, played by Malcolm Goodwin, is a cop. And one of the constant things is that the other cops are painted as unreasonable, really stupid, horrible people, as one of the murder suspects who turns out to have done one of the murders turns out to be a cop. And something about how they were written did rub me the wrong way. Especially the scenes where it's like they're just being dicks to Clive on purpose. I don't think the show. I don't know if the show's trying to push like an anti-cop thing because one of our main characters is a cop, but pretty much every cop that is a dick to him or painted as a horrible person is white, and it does feel really sketchy whenever that stuff is in the show. I'm not a fan of how that type of subject matter is portrayed at all because it comes off really hateful and really poor taste even. There's especially a part where Major is like tried to whistleblow on the cops not really focusing on these missing kids, and then he ends up getting arrested later, and the cops like throw a bunch of like hardened criminals in the like cell with him and just let them beat the shit out of him. And it really left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. It might not seem like a big thing, but it is something that like annoyed the shit out of me. It did. And in a show where it's mostly this like for the most part it doesn't take itself too seriously, which I'm fine with. And for a show like this that makes sense. It feels like it's kind of geared towards more of a teen audience, maybe adults. I can see I can see an age demographic enjoying this from like 13, 14 to 50. Like people who enjoy zombie shows and movies, I think will enjoy this show, even if they are a bit turned off by the cop thing. Um, the other thing is I'm not a fan of what Major does in some things. I will say he has a couple of badass moments near the end of the season, but he does also have a tendency to do stupid shit that he probably shouldn't. But yeah, um, other than that, this show is very well made. It doesn't look cheap. The only thing that really gives away that this is a like broadcast TV show or like cable, I forgot which this would be. I guess it would be cable. That this is TV 14 is whenever somebody gets shot, it kind of cuts away, or it's like a shot of somebody not bleeding. Um, that is really the only thing that gives it away. There's like a shot that's very deliberate where Major's like shooting a bunch of the zombies in meet cute, and you see like a shotgun go up to the zombie's head, and then the camera like pushes over to the wall, and then you see a blood splatter, and I was like, I get it. You gotta censor it a little bit for TV. But for the most part, the show is pretty graphic at times. There's bits where you see like people's heads like cracked open. There's a bit where you see one of the teenagers um that had been murdered's head is open, but like it's like kind of a like it's a it's a body that's been dead for a long time, so it looks like kind of I guess that's how they got around it was that it looked mostly black instead of red with blood. But the show does push some boundaries for what it is, and I enjoyed that. And overall, even with the weird stuff, I do still enjoy the show, and I will continue watching it. But yeah, that was my review of iZombie. If you've seen the show, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.